People feel overworked. They're still in the freelancer stage. They don't feel like they really have an agency. They're scared of delegating. They're continuously doing all the work themselves, refusal to take anything off their plate. They have trouble finding staff. They have turnover at staff, issues with training. And the solution to all these things here, these are all a symptom of the same problem. And that's doing too much, trying to do too much for people that don't need it. Perfect example of this is, a quote unquote full service agency. Like, you're not a full service agency until you're doing like at least 50 million in revenue. Now that's too much. Maybe like 5 million in revenue, right? Where like you've effectively exploited and solved the problem that your target customer is having, right? So again, when I go back to attorneys, this is a perfect example because I had a really good consultation today with a very large law firm. And they came in and were basically like, yeah, we need more leads. Like, we need more leads. So boom, perfect. We have a solution for that. We call it our blended search framework. He was all in and he ate it up. But then he was also like, look, there's another thing that, is really, really, really hot on the partners' minds right now. And that's, we want to be working with massive corporations. Like, we don't want a lot of clients. We only want 10 clients, but we want it to be all massive corporations because they're just constantly kicking out high value cases to us. We can build a $50 million law firm of having the right partnerships. And essentially I told him, like, you're not going to get that from marketing. That comes from relationships, that comes from networking, and that comes from winning consistently and making a name for yourself. So the question then became, well, how do we make a name for ourselves? We've got some marquee wins. How do we communicate these back out? So this is actually a really good example about doing too much. So what I told him was that it's really content, right? You need a strategy to put together a communication plan that's going to take the wins that you have that you can talk about and push those out through social media, push those out through ads, pushing out through your website, building an email list, just building a platform. Literally everything that we just talked about for ourselves, but similar with attorneys, similar like case studies. If you're an agency, right? You want to talk about your wins because that's ultimately what's going to drive more customers. However, we're not going to engage with them on that. What I told is that we can do some light consulting with that. We can have set up an extra monthly call with them to talk about that, but that's not an avenue that we're going to explore. So what I did there was, again, a lot of companies, a lot of agencies that I talked to were like, yeah, we don't really do website design, but a client asked us to do it, so we did it. We don't really do email marketing or social media, but this client asked us to do it because we're doing such a good job for them, so we did it. And this is where the problems usually start. Because what ends up happening is you're chasing a carrot for something that's going to pay you an extra 500, maybe a couple $1,000 a month, but ultimately it's going to cost you way more in terms of your time, in terms of your energy. So again, the key thing here, when it comes to all these symptoms, I'll just read them again. Overworked, stuck in the freelancer stage, inability to delegate, inability to hire people, inability to retain people, train them. It's a symptom of trying to do too much for too little, essentially, right? Now, I could have taken on that deal. We're going to close that attorney deal for sure, but I could have taken on that work to do content marketing for them and put together a video. Like, it's really a video strategy essentially that they need, but like, we don't do that. And we're not in a position to do that right now. And I'm not going to take that on because it's going to take so much of my time and energy to do that it's not going to be worth, even if they paid us 50 grand, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not worth it to do that now. However, what I am doing is I'm listening, right? And I'm paying attention. If we're getting this request more, or if we understand that, again, with the shifting tide when it comes to AI and content commoditization, as we'll call it, video is probably going to be the thing that we need to really inflict on our clients to help them to break through this commodity of content that's going to come in the next year from AI, then yeah, absolutely. Like, we need to refine our offer to put that in or have that as an upsell to slide in on top of that, right? But again, the key here, what we're really focused on doing until we get to a certain point, until we build a book of 50 good attorney clients that are on retainer, I'm not going to entertain that. We're going to continuously work on a process, which is blended search, paid and organic. We're going to refine it. We're going to get drilled in. We're going to become the best in the world at that. We're going to brand ourselves for attorneys looking for leads. They're going to be like, yeah, you need to talk to that guy. You need to talk to Webbers. You need to talk to them. That's what we're focused on right now. Leads from a very specific framework. Very similar to what you see here at Blueprint, right? I feel like we've done a very good job here talking about systems, talking about productization. The reason why, let's call it what it is, the Blueprint is a training company. Like, back in the day, man, the amount of crap that I used to get from people from having a training program and being like an internet marketer, being that guy. But what we've done is, but like, no, well, we're not like some flash in the pan company that's teaching you a tactic that is not going to work in a year from now. We're teaching core business principles here. We're talking about systems and processes. We're talking about things that have been around since the dawn of business, right? So we've really made an effort and a point to talk about this concept of productization, which is, again, another part of this doing less, right? Focus on doing one thing, turning into a system, turning into a process, turning into a framework, turning into something that's brandable, turning into something that people can come to you for that specific framework before they get to you and have that conversation. They know exactly what they're getting. They know why they're having the conversation. They're coming to you much more prepared. Ties into marketing and lead generation for the first part of this conversation. But if you're trying to do too much, you can never break these symptoms. Like, if you're stuck in the freelancer stage, you're never going to get out of it if you're just taking on every single piece of work. At some point, you're going to have to draw a line in the sand and say, that's not what I do. That's not what we do. I help X people do Y through Z, right? I help attorneys generate leads through blended search marketing. That's it. That's all we do. But I do know somebody if you need a website. I'm happy to refer you out, take a cut of that. But I'm not going to build a website for you. Just way too much time and energy. Every single time. We take on a website, I end up doing the QA, and it makes me want to quit this business. So that's another big thing. Again, all those symptoms, again, the solution is simplify. It's actually to do less and to be so damn good at it, that people come to you specifically for that, right? Justin just said, agree on site's waste of time. Now look at Justin, if you are a web designer or developer by trade, absolutely, like do that. But you need an offer and a system to build websites and not do, all these other things. I think website design companies are actually probably the key culprit of a lot of this, because inherently when you're building a website, it's difficult to anchor that against some sort of expected business result, right? Hey, I'm gonna pay you 50 grand for a new website, but like, you're just gonna change the fonts and the colors. Like, what am I actually getting from it? Like, well, you're gonna get more conversions. That takes time. That's dependent on if they're getting traffic. That's depending on if their messaging is right, all these different things, right? So I think web design companies are a good example of someone that's like, this is only a 2-month project, and after that, this client is gone. Like, no, we spent so much money trying to acquire them, we can't let them go. So why don't we do this? Or why don't we do that? Why don't we do social media marketing for them to try and tack on some sort of retainer? SEO is always going to be the best fit, because you can bake that into your website design services and just kind of get the site rolling and upsell a lot easier. But it's a good example of like just taking on work for the point of trying to boost revenue, when in fact, it's not who you are at the core. Right? It's much, much, much easier to do a very good job with something and build a reputation. And, there's a whole nother conversation too about product. Your service is your product. And the biggest thing, like when I evaluate consulting clients that I want to work with or don't want to, sorry, my desk is shaking like crazy. When I evaluate consulting companies, I get a ton of leads for consulting. People come off YouTube, they're like, hey, we need help with the strategy. We need help with this. I'm like, I looked at your product, man, and I don't see, like, I can't sell sand to the beach anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just too competitive out here. So as service-based businesses, especially SEO is commoditized. That's not an insult. Doesn't mean that SEO is dying. It's just a fact. Like, SEO is commoditized. Everyone can go to their LinkedIn DMs and there's probably 50 people trying to sell them SEO, and it's a race to the bottom in pricing. We guarantee first place rankings. Like, you don't pay until you get rankings. Like, that's a sign of a commoditized industry where there's not price elasticity. It's just race to the bottom pricing. So the way that you beat that back is you have to be the best in the world at what you do. You have to believe it and you have to practice it. And when you're trying to do too much, when you're trying to learn TikTok because a client asks you for it, not saying that you shouldn't, but instead of tripling down on what you're doing and getting better people, getting better systems, getting better processes, rolling that out into marketing, rolling that out into VSLs, rolling that out into your YouTube channel, having people come to you knowing exactly what you do ahead of time. And they're coming to you because you do that, right? Like, people come to the Blueprint now because they know what we stand for. They know that we're about systems. They know that we're about processes. They know that we're about productization, right? They know that we're going to help them reduce costs. They know we're going to help them get their time back. All these different things is baked into our marketing, but it starts with the program because the program is built that way. We spend so much time and energy on it. So it's the same thing with your service, right? Kind of like a restaurant. Like, there's a sushi sake just opened up in my little town here. Me and my wife we're like, this place is garbage. Like, why do we come? And it's like, y'all had one job. It's to make good food. And like, you can't even make good food. And it's just, it happens so much in this country. Like, I don't know if it's because people care more about money before the product or whatever, but like, if you don't have a good product, you don't have a business. And that, for us, service-based businesses, it's about not just results. It's also about the communication. It's about the quality of the deliverables. It's about, making your clients happy. Like, a good sign of that is if you're getting referrals or not. Like, if you're not getting referrals, your clients probably not that happy, because when people are really happy, they go out of the way to refer.